Welcome. Welcome back to yet another video. Today we are going to discuss one of the coding interview questions asked in the interview. So whether people who are attending Java interviews or if they are actually preparing for an interview and they are initially being shortlisted by any programmings like lead code or any other hacker rank, right? So these are the questions asked in that particular interview questions. So I am going to explain you how we can actually uh, solve that particular problem and what is the approach used for it. So here in this particular video, I am going to take one of the interview questions which is normally asked in any interview, right? So the program name is about opening bracket which are closed by the same bracket, so with the same type, right? So you have to ensure that particular bracket which is already present, right, it should have a closing bracket. Okay. uh, so without wasting our time, let's look at the problem statement. Okay. uh, so the interviewer might ask you about, like, the given string. We have a given string, right, which will contain the characters, like, this particular opening braces and closing braces with different number of brackets, right? So we have to determine whether the input string, whatever the string we are providing, okay, is valid or not. Okay. There might be three possibilities, like, the string is empty, the string is valid, and the string is invalid. Okay. So there might be three possibilities. We will look into that. So the input string, whichever is valid, is of the open brackets are closed by the same type of bracket, and the open bracket which are closed in the correct order, right? Let's say the first bracket is curly braces, the second bracket is round brackets, the third thing should be the closing bracket of the round bracket, the fourth thing, the last thing should be the closing bracket of the curly braces. So whatever has a open, it should close properly at the correct position. Okay. So he has asked us to implement that particular code in the Java. This might be an in general question for any programming language, but the logic would be definitely same. Okay. Or there will be a minimum change in it. Okay. Please have a close look at it. I'm going to explain line by line what exactly the problem, how you can approach it, what are the things to be used up, and the quickest ways to solve it. Now, I've written the program name as program bracket. We'll definitely look into the actual code, how it is going to run it, and what are the steps in it. But let's break down that particular program into a steps where we can actually understand the program and then logically solve that. Okay. The very first thing is that we have written a method over here. So I've written a isValid method over here, which is going to take string as an input. Second, now if you see, I have initialized a stack, right? So stack is being used here, so which is going to store your opening braces over here. Okay. So that is being used. So now if you see here, there is a character which I have taken over here as a in the parenthesis, right? If you see, for the stack which is of character type. Secondly, I'm going to iterate through that particular each character which is coming as an input. Now if you see, the string s is an input which is taking. Okay. So I have to first convert that into a string array, a character array, right? Because those are string. Now I have to convert that into a character array. Now in order to do that, I have to make use of the for each, right? So if you see that string to s character array, it is going to convert that into a for loop. That is a for each loop. Okay. After that, the third step, what I'm going to do is that now I'm going to check if the character is an opening bracket or not. If it is an opening bracket, like if one of this particular bracket, let's say curly bracket or curve bracket or the box type bracket, I'm going to definitely push that into the stack. Okay. If, let's say, if it is not going to be any one of them, okay, the next logic what I'm going to is that I am going to check if the character is a closing bracket or not. Okay. In the else loop. Okay. Because why this particular else logic has that is that because if we have already checked if it is an empty, and if there is no matching bracket available, then it is going to return true, right? So if you see, there is an if block written here which is going to check if the stack is empty or not, okay? And if it is an empty or not, then it will check that, okay? And it will paste it over here. After that, I'm going to pop up that particular top element of that particular stack trace, the most recent bracket, okay? And check like it in the character top. After that, if the if that particular check bracket, I mean, I'm going to check the closing bracket which is popped opening the bracket, right? So if it is not, then I'm going to return the false, okay? If it is not going to be one of that, then I'm going to return the false. So this is the logic which is going to be applied over here. Now, if you look at this particular code at this one, right? So we have created a stack by opening the curly braces. Then this stack, actually what actually it works as an LIFO principle, that is last in first out, okay? So which is an perfect for matching the braces, right? So when we are, let's say, we are pushing something, right, and we have checked it, so it is going to, the first one it is going to be pushed up is going to be checked up with the corresponding one, the last one, right? Similarly, as I've already mentioned, I've taken the for loop, which I'm going to iterate it. Then I'm going to check if from that, the current C character is an opening character or not. Okay, if it is not, then I'm going to push it, okay, into the stack. Or else, if it is not the opening bracket, then it must be a closing bracket, right? Definitely, that is the understanding. So I'm going to check if it is an empty or not. It is going to return false. Or if it is an empty. Now if it is not empty, it means that it is a closing bracket without the corresponding bracket. So then in that case, if it is the first character, and if it is has no corresponding bracket already there, then it's definitely going to be the invalid string. Now under the sixth step, if you see, I'm going to take up the character pop over there, and then I'm going to check the top element from the stack, which should be the most recent one, okay? Then if I'm going to check, like whether it is going to be C, the character, if it is going to be the brasses, and then the, let's say, the curly braces, and then it's going to check for that, if it is not equal to the closing bracket or opening bracket, then it is going to be a not condition, so it is not going to satisfy that, and it is going to return it, okay, false. Now if we check the opening batches, it is going to match the current closing bracket, then only it is going to be returning true. Unless it is that, if it is not the case, that is going to return invalid string. So in that case, one by one, it is going to check that the opening bracket with the closing bracket, and then it will return true, right? Now let's jump into the code, right? So this is the last bit of code where if it is nothing is written, the string is not being populated, then it is going to return empty, right? That's how the logic would work. Now let's jump into the code. Now if you see here, I have a code written over here, okay? I have a program written over here which is importing the stack, okay? Now we already discussed that we are going to make use of this stack, which is the LIFO principle, and we are going to iterate with that particular, converting into a string to an character array. And then we are going to check for that, like if this is an opening braces with the this characters or not. If it is not, it is going to push it into this particular thing. Ultimately, it is going to check whether this particular, I mean, whatever the top element, whatever it you see, right, the most recent braces, it should be having, I will be taking that particular thing, and I'm going to check with the one which is going to be in this two conditions. So either of this particular condition should match up, okay? If it is not going to match up, I mean, it is not going to match it, then it returns a false, or else it will return a true, right? So if neither of this particular the top is happening, then it is going to return empty. So stack is going to remit an entry. Now if you see here, I have three conditions over here, written over here. So we'll run one by one, okay? uh, Now very first thing, if you see here, I'm going to run it for the first case, that is which is going to return true. Now if you see, I've got the opening braces then this one and this one, right? So if I make this particular changes and run it, it is going to definitely return me a true, right? Let's run this. Now if you see, it is going to return true, right? Let's try it out with the second one, which is going to return false. Now there is a character which is there, which is definitely not going to be matching up, right? Or else let's try it out like this way. Well, I will remove one of them and then see. Now if you see here, it is again returning true. Now let's try it out by with some other braces as well and see. Yeah, it is going to return the same thing. Now if you see here, I'm going to check it with the empty string. Now what string it is going to return? It is going to return true, because we have written a logic where, if it is blank, then it is going to return empty, right? So that's what we are going to return. I hope this particular example is clear to you and you have got an approach of how to solve this particular questionnaire. And I hope you will be able to answer the question very freely, and the moment he asked it, so he will be impressed with you, like, you know the logic of how to sort this issue, right, or the problem. If this video was helpful to you, and if you want more videos to be made on this, uh, do uh, subscribe, like, and share the video, and don't forget to hit the bell icon.